Greetings, YouTube. I just saw something on Tumblr which kind of struck me. It was a posting, I think a tweet, about someone saying, imagine a group of Native American elders telling New Age folks how their spiritual beliefs are made up. And I guess the point was that the indigenous people have a more authentic religious spiritual experience than the New Age folks because their religious and spiritual paths are much older. And they were, on this continent 15,000 years ago, or longer, but I mean, for a really long time. They probably brought them with them. The people that came here brought their beliefs, and they modified over time. That bothers me. And I'm not knocking Native Americans. That's not my goal here. But that's like saying that people get upset about the words cis and trans. Those are made-up words. Newsflash there, Jeffrey, all words are made up. And whether a belief system is 15,000 years old or 15 minutes old, they are equally valid if they do the same thing for the believer. If those belief systems help that person achieve a better understanding of the universe from a spiritual perspective, they are valid. Let me give you an example. Aramaic has been around for a really long time. It's the language that Jesus spoke. English is a relatively new language. So if you look at those two languages as far as longevity, Aramaic has been around prior to the birth of Jesus. And there are still just under a million speakers of those language groups. It's a language group. It's not the specific one. But those languages based on Aramaic are still alive today. Under a million. But there are billions of people that speak English, either as their birth tongue or as a secondary language. And it's become the language of commerce in many places in the world. So if you look at it from the point of view of popularity, English wins. If you look at it from the point of view of Aramaic longevity, Aramaic wins. They do the same thing. They allow people to communicate. Maybe not in exactly the same way. Aramaic probably lacks the terms that English has for dealing with day-to-day life in this, the modern era. And maybe you could use English in the same way you could use Aramaic and in the era of Jesus. I'm not sure. English may have had to be evolved significantly to be able to work in that time. I'm not positive. But are the languages better or worse? How do you want to measure that metric? Again, longevity or popularity? Modern utility or the language that functions in the, the classical era? They're both languages. And a belief system is the same thing. A belief system is a belief system. Now, I have incorporated aspects of my belief system from Robert Adams, a screaming bigot, from Native Americans, from Australians, from some of the spiritual beliefs of like the indigenous folks of Europe before Christians showed up. Not to mention elements of paganism that were created anywhere between like the 1890s and 1930s, including the whole concept of the veil growing thin between our realm and the spirit realm on All Hallows Eve, Halloween. And I understand that intellectually, historically, that these ideas are not old. And there are people who find some of them problematic. I get that. I don't care if anyone else has my beliefs. I'm not asking anyone else to have my beliefs. I am not proselytizing them. They work for me. I'm an animist. Animists have been around for a really long time, and that's found in many different religious traditions, spiritual traditions. Animism is common. But I'm an animist. I wear holy symbols that are old. This is Egyptian. I worship an Egyptian god. This is a five-pointed star, a pentagram, a pentacle. Depends on how you want to look at it. So old, no one really knows who created this particular symbol. All right? Been around for a really long time. There are those that see it as a sign of evil. There are those that see it as a sign of protection. I see it as a sign of protection, representing the four elements in the spirit world. Do I think the world is actually made up of four elements? No. It's a spiritual belief. It is mythos, not logos. I know the difference, and I do not see a dichotomy because I don't create one. One spiritual belief is as good as another spiritual belief as long as it isn't hurting anyone and it functions for that person as a spiritual belief. And when I say not hurting anyone, I mean the person themselves. If a spiritual belief requires someone to harm themselves emotionally, mentally, or physically, I have a problem with it. I have a problem with some of the penitence aspects of certain of the Christian strains. I have, that's just not my thing. I don't think people should suffer for their religious beliefs. I don't believe people should have to endure anguish and emotional pain to achieve spiritual enlightenment. I don't believe that people have to undergo deprivation to achieve their spiritual enlightenments. Have I achieved it in spiritual enlightenment? I don't think so. Am I more enlightened than I was when I started my path? Yes. Am I ever going to have that, that satori, that spiritual epiphany? I got no idea. I have no idea if I'm even on the right path. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. And if I don't ever find out until I cross the Rainbow Bridge, I'm borrowing that from the Norse, I'm okay with that. And I will gladly assist anybody who needs advice. Because I think all of us are on a path to spiritual enlightenment. And I've always kind of envisioned it as a mountain peak. How you get to the top doesn't matter. Every path up there is legitimate as long as you're not hurting yourself or others. To me, it's that simple. So I don't want people comparing traditions and saying that an older one is better than a new one, or this one's better because it's European than the one that's in Africa, from Africa, or the Australians had no idea what they were talking about, and until the Europeans showed up, or I just don't want to listen to that crap. I don't need it. It's all aspects of bigotry, and we don't need that. We have enough of it already. So don't be putting Native American elders against New Age hippies. If you don't think stones have a magical essence, cool. If you don't feel an affinity for metal, cool. If you feel the need to be in a building and say specific prayers at specific times and specific days, cool. I'm not going to judge you for that. I will judge you on your acts. I will judge you on the words you use, because if they help the world, I will judge you positively. And if they try to hurt the world, I will judge you negatively. I don't think it's all that complex. If your spiritual belief helps you and the world around you, it's a net positive. Whether it's 15,000 years old or 15 minutes. They're all valid. And I don't like when people frame the narrative that some are better than others and that we should take a position of judging and looking down our spiritual noses at people who don't make the cut in our particular personal